If there was one or two words to describe how the Al-Qassam Brigade operates, I would say lethal secrecy. Nobody knows to this day how many people are actually incorporated in the brigade until an official statement is passed of their death. The Al-Qassam forces, the brigade which we're seeing are playing out in Palestine, in the war in Palestine right now, is the official military force of Hamas, the group that controls the Gaza part of the occupied Palestinian territory. And it was named after a scholar of the same name. He was Syrian born, and he was expelled from Syria by the French occupiers at that time. And he was killed in 1935 by British occupiers at that time during the first Intifada, which was from 1917 to 1948. And because of his resistance and because of his ideology, they named the brigade after him. And the prime mantra of the brigade is to give Palestinians their promised land back. In 1984, Sheikh Yassin, who is the founder of the Hamas wing, in 1987, he, along with a group of other prominent resistance fighters in Palestine, they decided to form a group which would be holistic, prime motive of which would be to defend the Palestinians, which would be the official military wing. Although it was later dubbed as Al-Qassam Brigade in 1991, after the Syrian scholar of the same name, following his ideology, the group came into being in 1984 and was known as the Palestinian Fighters, among other names as well. And currently the leader is Mohammed Daim, and his deputy is Marwan Isa. Both are Ghazan-born. And Mohammed Daim became the leader of the Al-Qassam Brigade in 2002, following an IDF strike which took out and killed 15 Palestinian leaders. Among them was Sheikh Shahada, who was the leader of the Qassam Brigade. If there was one or two words to describe how the Al-Qassam Brigade operates, I would say lethal secrecy. Qassam Brigade operates in multiple cells all over Gaza, all over Palestine, not only Palestine but also in Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Egypt as well. And all these cells are independent. How they work are independent of each other as well. Nobody knows to this day how many people are actually incorporated in the brigade until an official statement is passed of their death in an airstrike or on-ground combat. Following, again, as I mentioned, following the ideology of Al-Qassam, they operate in secrecy. First, they were limited to on-ground operations and combats, but lately, especially after 2014, they have developed other techniques. The thing about the Al-Qassam Brigade is, and what they've been following for the past 2 decades now, is that so they have levels of defense. If, for example, one level of defense is taken out, it will always have a backup level of defense as well. Each level of defense at a certain time during combat is comprised of at least 2,000 soldiers. Their basic training comes in from their partners in Hezbollah in Lebanon and also in Iraq and other parts of the world as well. They have a close affiliation with the Al-Qaeda offshoot in Lebanon, Abdullah Azam Brigade, and which operates in Lebanon and Egypt as well. And obviously they have a lot of sympathizers and a lot of support from organizations all over the world. though they do not necessarily follow the same ideology, but they do have the support. And Hezbollah, as you have seen in 2003 in the current ongoing strike, they have said, officially they've said that they have close direct contact with all the operations that the Al-Qassam Brigade is carrying out. Organizations which do not share the same ideology with Al-Qassam, for example, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, even they have voiced support for the ongoing operation which is playing out in Gaza right now. When Al-Qassam Brigade initially started out, they were limited to on-ground confrontation and combat only. And in that also, they were not really much successful. But having learned from their mistakes, especially in 2014, over the years, they have developed rockets. Al-Qassam rocket is their most recent addition in 2014. They have unmanned drones, they have UAVs. And so the first, for a group that was first restricted to suicide bombings, which comprised of nails and bolts, or using, for example, chemical toxins or rat toxins, for a group to develop from that to what we have seen in the present conflict, to paragliders and I would say a very well thought out attack. Because if you saw the clippings, there was a rave going on and we can see in the distance paragliders coming in. But at the same time, we also saw rockets being launched from Gaza, 7,000 in all, and to be able to penetrate the Iron Dome, which is first class technology of its kind, is a big thing. Of course, some people attribute it to intelligence defect on the Israeli part, but for a group, for a non-state actor, which is only officially restricted to that 41-kilometer strip, to do that is a huge thing, and it was an unprecedented, well thought out attack. Now, for an actor, non-state actor, to do that, obviously the question arises, do they get support, funding and all? Allegedly, Hezbollah has openly said that it does support Qassam. And allegedly, of course, there are other countries and obviously countries where their cells exist, for example, Syria, Iran, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt, to name a few. They do have their funding and support from these areas as well.
Thank you for watching the full video. आप में से बहुत से ऐसे लोग हैं जिन्होंने शायद हमारा YouTube चैनल सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया. So if you want to support independent journalism and watch more meaningful content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.